Hello, love guys. Welcome back to another podcast, end of the month podcast here on our channel. It's great to have you guys back. As you guys are aware, we are not under a tree, and that'll probably give you a clue that we're not in Samoa. So, if you saw the thumbnail, you know that we are not in Samoa at the moment. We are actually in Australia. And the reason why that I'm here is because I've just got a bit of a work conference and training at the moment. Sorry, guys, just had breakfast. Um, and that's why we're here in Australia. So we got here on Monday morning, around 8 a.m. And then we actually arrived in Brisbane. So it was from Faleolo to Brisbane. And then we waited there for about, I think it was 8 hours, 8 or 7 hours. We actually left Brisbane. Um, at around 3 p.m. So when we arrived in Brisbane, it was really packed because, and that was my first time being in the Brisbane International Airport. Yeah, International Airport, and it was quite packed as well. So I think there was about 5 or 6 flights that all landed at the same time. So it was absolutely full. But we also managed to get out quickly, and on time. So we spent the whole 7 hours, 8 hours, just waiting at the domestic transfer. And the funny thing was, me and my one of my work colleagues, well, not a work colleague, he was actually part of the training as well. We were actually waiting still inside the international airport, thinking that this was where we actually caught the plane to come down to Canberra. So we're in Canberra at the moment. But then we started noticing that, so the flight leaves at 3 p.m. and we started noticing that it was well past 1:30, which is 2 hours before the checkout time. And we weren't seeing anyone there, and we started thinking that maybe the domestic airport is at another place. So we quickly asked one of the people there, and they said, "Yeah, you have to catch the bus at to the domestic international or the domestic airport." So that's why we quickly hurried. Luckily, we made it on time, with about 45 minutes to an hour, until the plane boarded. And then after that, we came down to Canberra. It was really good. Um, if you guys know, I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I did my undergraduate degree here in Canberra. So it was actually me coming back after 14 years of living of leaving Canberra. So I spent about 3 years here in Canberra doing my degree, and then after that left home. So this was my first time first time coming back to Canberra since my undergraduate days. So it was really exciting as well. So it's just funny because the smell that smell of the eucalyptus and gum trees is really potent here in Canberra. And it's something that stuck in my head when I was living here. So before the plane even landed, I already knew what it would smell like as soon as I came out. As soon as I saw the trees, it was pretty funny. So yeah, we've been here for the past 4 or 5 days now. Really enjoying it. I've got another week here, so might be missing out on a lot of the episodes, our usual episodes at the farm and stuff. But we won't be missing out on our podcast, which is why I did it today. And I do apologize because we did miss out last month's podcast, and that was only because I was quite busy back then with a lot of things, especially with getting the kids back to school, and the usual things we have at the farm. So apologies for that, guys. We didn't have our podcast, but that's why we wanted to do it today. And if you guys remembered, I did mention in my Sunday cooking episode that we would, at the end, that we would probably be in a different location, and voila. Anyway, guys, so yeah, that's a bit of update from my end. Hope everyone is well. Special fatalo for 12 members. And I guess we'll probably get started on our questions. So I did post in our community tabs to submit your questions for our end of the month podcast. So that's something that I think we did about 2 days ago, maybe in the beginning of the week. I'm not sure. But we got some questions, not much. I think it was about three or four, and we're going to get to it. So fingers crossed we get through it before my battery dies because I am seeing a bit of low battery. But let's get to the question, guys. So for our first our first question for today is from the Jaras 56, and they're asking what causes the shortage of chicken. I love watching your cooking. Wish I could taste one. So they're asking what causes the shortage of chicken, and so this was because there was a shortage of chicken and also other products in Samoa last week, coming into this week, and I'm not sure what caused the shortage. We have had a lot of shortage of things the past year, and then the previous year, and then coming into this year, and it's probably everyone's just still trying to get back into the whole motion of things after COVID, where everything was shut down. So especially things such as supply chains, that's something to consider because obviously there could be disruptions in supply chains, as we saw back during COVID. There was a massive interruption of supply chains, which actually caused a lot of delay of the global shipments of commodities, goods around the world. So that might be the reason, and that is probably the reason. So it might be a just a disruption in the supply chain. So I think we do have chicken now back on the island. Hopefully, but I have heard the price has gone up to about $7. So I'm not sure until I get back on the island and I'll verify that. But if you go back probably 5 years, the price for a kilo of chicken, which is the leg quarters, has risen from $3. It was about 3.70, $4, $5, $6, 90 3 months ago, and now it's $7. So if I can verify that, I would actually be quite surprised. But see, this type of disruptions, should be a lesson by now to our people, to not rely heavily on imports, for foods, when you can live off the land, have your own chickens, grow your own chicken, have a chicken farm, pig farm, cattle farm, things that you can use to eat and grow taro. So, obviously the more we rely heavily on imports, the more control international countries have on us. But if we can be self-sustainable, then nobody has power over us except God, only God. But yeah, thank you for the question. Really enjoyed that. We'll jump to the next question. Sorry, guys. I've got my laptop here, so that's bouncing off the camera and the laptop. But the next question is from Steel Curtain 402. Will the taro grow faster and bigger if you was to use fertilizer? Uh, with regards to fertilizer, it's we've never tried using fertilizer, and the only reason we don't use it is because first it's expensive, and if we were to add fertilizer to the large plantation that we have, it'll probably cost as much as probably a grand or something, and we'd like to save that money for other developments on the farm. The second thing is because we'd like to keep it organic, not without the use of fertilizer and stuff. We do use herbicides, but we've also limited the use of herbicides as well, by utilizing the cows. So probably about 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, around 4 or 5 years ago, my wife's family's been using a lot of pesticide for the growing for clearing the vegetation before planting, and that actually, in my opinion, actually really harms the soil, especially large plots of land. So what me and uncle introduced was using the electric fence, and that electric fence, we actually make a perimeter around what we're about to plant, and then we'll send in the cows, And once the cows go in, they will actually feed on all the green vegetation, and then leaving like the tree stumps and exposed, and also like the small bit of grass left and the weeds. So what we do then is I think we leave the cows for about 2 to 3 days, maybe four if the vegetation and the weeds are too big, and then we will bring back the cow into the cattle farm, and then beginning herbicide, spraying it down with the herbicide to prepare the land. And that probably just 1 maybe 2 liters of herbicide, because we actually create dilutions. But if we hadn't used the cattle, we'd probably make it up to 10 or maybe 12 liters of herbicide to spray down, a 2 acre field we're about to plant. But with fertilizer, we hardly use fertilizer, because we like to keep it organic and also save costs. But using this method that we use, in which we use the cattle farm to graze on the vegetation, actually during that 3 or 4 days, the cows actually, release waste onto the land. So that's providing that an additional fertilizer. We also have decomposing trees, that have been chopped down to 2, 3 years, that are actually still supplying that organic matter to the soil. And that's why I think we probably won't even use fertilizer in the near future, as long as you give that soil that fallow period, to regenerate the nutrients in the soil, and not only the nutrients but also the microbes and the life, the insects, all that entire ecosystem that actually helps the taro grow. But I have heard of some people that use fertilizers in Samoa, but it's mostly just small plots, of about maybe 300 to 400 taro, and they've yielded some really big taro. So I think there is an effect. I'm not sure on the how quick it'll probably grow, but it does have an effect on the size. So I think it actually grows a bit bigger and larger than usual. So that was a good question as well. Thank you for that. The next question is from Dank Slug. Um, Hi, from Australia. Do different varieties of taro taste unique, and why grow multiple varieties? So that's another great question. Um, yeah, so different taro varieties actually have a different taste, and texture as well. Some are quite more starchier than others. Some are actually more watered down, if you could say that. So kalosusu, those susu meaning water, it has a lot more water content than usual, actually have a really bland taste. But there are varieties that actually taste really good, and there are some varieties that actually have half half. So when I say half half, it'll probably be like 50%, with that solid maple taste, that starchiness, and then 50% water, and then it's I think that's what they call the taro that's ainga susu, so it can be eaten, given the fact that it's still got a bit of moisture in it. But yeah, different taro varieties do have a different taste, and that's why some people, especially the elders, I usually see at the markets, they always ask when they buy the type of taro, because they're very selective with the taste, um, and their preference for the taro. So Samoa Lua, which is that red variety, has got a good, it's got a good great taste. Saiko's got a great taste. They've all got that starchiness, that heavy starchy flavor, that people love. So yeah, that's to answer the first part of your question. The second part is why grow multiple varieties. So the main reason why we grow multiple varieties of taro in our plots is because we we now have different varieties that can actually mature at different times. So, for example, there is a 4 month variety we have, and there is, I think, the two main varieties are the 4 month variety and the 8 month variety. So remember, if you grow a large plantation, which is mostly the 8 month variety, that means you can only harvest in 8 months, right? And there's 12 months of the year, which means that you'll only get one harvest in the year. But if you grow the 4 month variety, you can probably harvest it at 5 months, which means that you'll probably have two harvests in the year, which means that you'll harvest, let's say you plant in January, you'll probably harvest in January, February, March, April, May, June, and then plant again in August, September, October, November, December. So that's two harvests in 1 year. But if you only plant the 8 month variety, you'll only get one harvest in a year. And that means it's there's nothing wrong with the 8 month variety, but just getting more harvests out of the year. But you can also another way to do that is actually do plots and then put them 2 months between each other. So if I plot 1 month, I plot the 8 month variety in January, and then make a next plot, plant that in March, and then make a next plot, plant that April, May, and then June, July. I'll plant one in July, and that gives you that consistent variety, that consistent supply of taro during when you start harvesting. But that's the reason why we have different we grow different varieties of taro, is that so that we can get multiple harvests during the year. But yeah, thanks. That's a great question. Another question here from John Hernandez. Special shout out to John Hernandez. Hope you're doing good, man. Hello. How are the pigs and cows doing? Which I assume is the pig and cattle farm. And also, did you get your firearms permit? I understand that if I understand that's something you don't want to discuss. Nice to see the new access road. Have a great day and God bless. Thanks, man. So the pig and cattle farm are doing really good. We actually found one extra pig that's now in our pig farm, and that pig was found roaming around in our cattle farm. So the boys were at the plantation that day and they actually caught it, and then they brought it back, threw it in the pig farm. So we've actually gone up to five pigs now from four that we had, which is great. More pigs. So the pig in the beginning actually wasn't really wasn't really friendly, only because it was a new environment, and we were worried that it might tear down the pig fence we had. So uncle and the boys got a piece of metal wire and stuck it in the nose, and they said the reason why they do this, they poked the metal wire through the nose, is that to prevent it from digging, so that he doesn't go. Or, yeah, I think it's a male pig, so that the pig doesn't escape, and because pigs tend to dig with the snout and stuff, so that's why they put a wire through that, so that it hurts when they try to do that. But the pig has come around. It's doing really great. The cattle farm is same old. It's We've been quite slow lately. Um, the cows aren't breeding that well. Been slow on breeding. So we're probably thinking maybe it's because the bull that we have inside the cattle farm is not really horny. Let's call it that. So hopefully that horniness builds up during this year, and then we could start getting more cows. But we are preparing to extend the cattle farm pretty soon, only because just anticipating that the cattle farm will start growing very soon, and this year we might get another extra 3 or 4 cows. We're probably going to purchase 3 or 4 more cows for the cattle farm. So, that means more grass, more cows eating. So, just anticipating that and trying to extend the cattle farm a bit larger. With regards to the firearms permit, still haven't gotten around. So, you guys understand. Sorry, guys, if you guys hear noise. There's the cleaning going on around the other room, so you'll probably hear the banging, the people cleaning. So apologies for that. But with the firearms license, I just been really busy. I had the team from the police call up with the follow-up letters that we had. So I couldn't get one from the Pulinu because the Pulinu was overseas. We couldn't get one from the doctors because the clinic was closed at the time. So there was a lot of things I couldn't get straight after that visit we had. So if you haven't seen that episode, be sure to check it out. When the police came over to carry out the inspection for our firearms. So that's something I'll probably get back into this year again and try and get, only because we did find roaming pigs again at the cattle farm, and that means they're most likely going to attack the plantation. So we don't want that. So that's probably something I need to get to doing this year as well, is getting all the documents sorted for the firearms permit. But thanks for that. I really appreciate that question. So those were the questions. That we finished was from our community tabs. The next few questions are stuff that I got out of the videos that I haven't replied yet to, only because I've been really busy. As well, as you guys know, I do have a lot of work to do. So that's why we're going to get to these questions here, from the comment section in our video. So the first question from the comment section, our videos, is from Esse3769. How come you don't pull out the brown palm leaves up that you were planting? Just curious. Thanks for that question. That's a good question, because I actually considered that too, when I was planting So I think it was probably from the episode where I was planting taro there, which has the breadfruit in the thumbnail. And the reason why I didn't take out the brown palm leaves is because I was actually just, oh my God, just too lazy to lift it up. Once you start having a whole, routine when you're planting taro and everything is just working smoothly, anything else that'll, throw off, how things are going, you just neglect. And I was just in a really good, mood when I was planting taro. I didn't want to stop. So things such as that, I know that it'll probably have no effect when I was planting the taro through the palm leaves. So that's why I just didn't bother taking it off. But if you want, if it, a more, you know, proper reason, if you either like a proper reason for that, was the other good use of just leaving the aulama, or the brown palm leaves there, is that it actually helps stop the weed as well, because it sort of shades where I planted the taro. And I've seen a lot of cultures do that as well, where they use palm leaves. I think Hawaii does that, and some other countries in the Pacific actually do that. So I did intentionally leave the palm leaf there when I was planting taro, only because I just couldn't be bothered taking it off. So hope that answers your question. Um, Here's another. Well, it's not necessarily a question, but it was more of like a comment. But I wanted to discuss more on it. Was from Jacinta Vaitoe 6566. And they commented, "Can I have some ulu? We don't have ulu in Melbourne, Australia." Now, I wanted to bring this question up, this comment up, because I'm actually quite curious, why in Melbourne you guys don't have ulu. Um, and if I'm not sure, because if that's the case, I would really like to actually try and export ulu to Australia. I know the entry requirements are for things such as biosecurity, and those people, with the whole concern of bringing pests and stuff, though their entry requirements are really tough. So if you guys can comment down below if you live in Melbourne as to why you guys don't have ulu there. Do people just not import ulu and do the shops, or is it because the shops don't? There's not a large enough population of people to eat ulus that shops don't even bother looking for suppliers of ulu? Because if there's quite a large population of people, it's probably mostly Pacific Islanders that eat the ulu. So if there's quite not a large population of people eating ulu, then that's probably the reason why people don't bother. But if there's quite a lot of you that eat ulu in Melbourne, I will try to export, if I can, fingers crossed, some ulu to Melbourne, and we'll see how that goes because we're actually trying to do something very big this year, and we're quite ambitious in what we're doing. We don't know if we'll make it, but we'll never know if we don't try. So we're gonna try and export taro to America, the United States of America. So fingers crossed we can get through it. There's quite a lot of barriers, but I've talked to one of my Fijian friends that actually does farming, and he said that it's actually a lot easier to export taro to to the United States of America than to Australia. So we want to try that out this year. But that's why I brought that comment because I was actually quite surprised that there's no ulu in Melbourne. And if there is ulu, is it the ones grown locally in Melbourne or imported from uh, somewhere else in Australia? So I'm really quite curious. So please comment down below, guys, if you live in Melbourne. I would really like to know. But we'll move on to the next question. Well, not the next question. It's another comment. And the reason why I brought it up is really interesting. And this comment's from 018 108D. Yeah, that's the name on the question. While the land is looking great, ignorant question, because I have no knowledge of farming, but does potato not grow in Samoa? I was in the motherland last month and nearly every barbecue meal came with rice. Was a bit disappointed as I do like my potato salad. Thank you for the question. That's another great question. Not a great question. Yeah, no, I mean, not a question, but well, it is a question. Anyway, let's move on. Um, so it's not an ignorant question. I had a teacher that always told us that no question is a bad question. So don't worry about being, an ignorant question or anything. I'm always happy to answer as much as I can because, as you guys know, I am learning, and at the same time, you guys might be learning with me. So it's a whole learning procedure with you guys. But yeah, no, potato does not grow in Samoa. I don't know if anyone's tried, but no, it doesn't grow. Only the sweet potato grows in Samoa. So we do have that at the farm, and we've planted it a few times, but we've always come to find that it's been eaten by rats. So we might have to get it planted in an actual container or something. But yeah, sweet potatoes grow in Samoa, but not the actual brown potatoes. Um, and it was quite funny. You mentioned in your comment that you like the potato salad in the barbecue, and almost all the barbecues came with rice, and that's the actual true reality of some barbecues there in Samoa because I'm here in Australia. Um, is that there's a lot of it's either banana, rice. There was one potato salad. There's actually a few that actually do potato salad, which I know of at the top of my head, which is Fia's Barbecue at Vaitili and Connections Barbecue next to Sap in a pier. So maybe check out those ones because for sure they'll always have potato salad in their barbecues, but not the your usual around the air side area your barbecues. Those guys usually either utilize bread or not bread, banana or rice, and that's the reason why there's actually a few of them that I think they're Filipino or Cambodian barbecues that actually use ulu and papaya salad for their barbecue. So that was quite interesting to see. But I hope that answers your question. And then got another question here from Alu. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to mention R2R310. And they've asked, what when clearing bush and dirt for farming, have you guys ever found old Samoan historic artifacts buried? Also, are bees indigenous to Samoa? So no, we haven't found any Samoan historical artifacts when we're actually clearing the bush for planting. But we found some of the interesting things we find was an actual foundation for a traditional Samoan house. So as you know, traditional Samoan houses actually didn't have any cement, so they'd pile rocks on, large rocks, and then you've got smaller rocks, and then you've got these fine lake rocks, river rocks that actually make the which is actually kind of like the cement footing of the house. So we actually found those ones, and they're not too far back, in to be called historical artifacts, because there are still people in Samoa that actually use that method only because cement is quite expensive and probably they probably live in really remote locations like up in the mountains and stuff, so they'll still utilize that. But no, we've never found any Samoan historical artifacts buried when we actually clear the bush for planting. Also, are bees indigenous to Samoa? I would think bees would probably be indigenous to Samoa, or probably not. I'm not sure. But if you mean indigenous as in they are native and not introduced into Samoa, then I probably think they would be because, Samoa has been an island um, for a very long time during its existence, and wherever nature follows, insects also follow. So maybe some migration of bees back way back before when the islands were developed already had bees there. So I guess you could say that it could be the bees could probably be indigenous to Samoa. Um, but yeah, thanks for that. Another great question. All right, we're going pretty good for time. Our next question is from Train. Oh, not question. It's a comment. From Train 7629. It's sad that we depend on exported food. I like your channel because it promotes food security through living off the land. If there's food shortage, no problem. You get plenty of chickens, pigs running around. And that's the reason I brought that comment was because of the shortage of chicken that we had on island last week. Um, and it's something, which is I applaud the comment for picking up the person for picking up that in our videos, because that is something, I do like to show, you know not only Samoans living overseas, but mainly to Samoans living in Samoa, that the cost of living is not coming down. Inflation is through the roof at the moment. I'm not sure what inflation is at currently at the moment in Samoa in the last quarterly report. And you've got supply chain disruptions in Samoa, almost every every year now. So, you can't rely on imported products and food to sustain your family. So that's why it's always important to grow your own food. One of the main things that us Samoans have is land. There's no Samoan that does not have land. Meaning, the traditional and customary land, because all of us have ties to villages, and villages have huge amounts of land. So the fact that you don't utilize that land in a way that can help your family and feed your family is actually quite concerning, which means you probably rely heavily on imported food products and stuff. So that's one of the things I really like to show, is especially in my cooking episodes, is that we rely heavily, to utilize as much as you can the your surrounding and your environment. So that's why whenever I cook, it'll probably be the meat will probably be the only thing I'll buy from the shop, and a few spices and herbs. But I'll try most of the time to get things that we need for cooking from around our house. So there was a time I used pineapple that we had growing, cabbages, the tomatoes, spring onion. These are all things you can grow just next to your house. So that's why I highlighted that comment, because it's really important that we utilize our land to grow our own food, so that we aren't affected by what's happening overseas. You know what I mean? For example, the war in Ukraine. Um, Ukraine is a heavy producer of wheat. Wheat is used to make flour, and if there's a shortage of flour, then no bread, and whatever they use wheat for, that actually is imported into Samoa. So don't rely heavily on imported stuff, because they will always disrupt your life. In terms of food security. So great comment there, and I just want to say thank you for that. All right. Um, Another comment here from SA3769. I'll quickly read it because it's quite a lot of it's quite a long comment, so I'll try to get through as much as I can. Famaluatu, food looked great, but I would like more information on the green leaves you picked off for the beef soup last minute. I heard quickly the Samoan name, but I didn't catch it. Will you please let me know what it's called in English and Samoan? It looks similar when you chop like collard greens, however, much smaller and nice lighter green when you picked them off the stems. Another thing, one of your videos, you apologize for not being a chef when cutting your vegetables. I think personally you have quite a lot of knowledge in cooking that than most people I see cooking on here, that they are not chefs. Speaking specifically when you take the oil and reused it to fry your fish, yet concerned the beef scent. I remember from a past video where I watched you knew how to collect the oil on top and use it as well. Keep it up. Sorry, that was quite a long comment, but I just wanted to get to the uh, what they were asking for. So thank you for that. I really appreciate the comments. About the cooking videos. That's one of the things I try to. Back then in Samoa, there used to be before we had like these liquid oils. We used for liquid cooking oils. We had the polokangao, and I always remember I used to go to the shop to buy those polokangao, and that's the one we usually use. And I remember back then, when we use those, that it would always solidify again. So we always try to filter out the oil from the food, and then let it solidify, put it back in the fridge, and then use it again for next cooking. So that's why I've got that whole reuse mentality whenever I cook. I try to cook, and it also is because just save money where you can. If just a bit of common sense would really go a long way. So that's why I'm really glad you picked up on that. But in regards to the leaf that I used in this episode, which I think it was when I was cooking the soup bone, this is called laupele. So I'll throw that there, laupele. And the English name for this vegetable, let's call it vegetable. Well, it's actually a green leaf. The English name is called hibiscus spinach. Hibiscus spinach. So that's very common here in Samoa, and something very common plant, and something the health has done for many years, pushing people to eat this. Because it's a really good plant. You can plant it almost anywhere, and it'll grow into huge, like the size you saw in our video there. So that's why the versatility of the plant is really good, and the leaves are really, really nice. So it's a great alternative to cabbage. If you're not in season for cabbage, use laupili. But yeah, that was a great hope I answered your question. And thanks for commenting. All right, and I think we are up to the final comment from Jack P. And Jack P says, use, oos. I don't know how many dishes I've learned watching your vids. You the man. Keep up the grind. God bless. Thanks, Sus. I really appreciate it. I wanted to bring that comment because that's part of the reason why I also try to do cooking videos, is because I know it brings a lot of value to all of us. For me, I never knew how to cook. I'm the youngest in my family. I have five brothers. I am the youngest. And being the youngest, you're always chased around to do the chores. And I've always been, whenever my mother's cooking, I'll be with my mom helping her cook the stuff. So I always try to capture as much as I can. And when I finally came to Australia, well, look at that, we're back in Australia. When I came to Australia in to do my undergraduate degree, that was the first time I was alone. I had to survive on my own, be independent. No, not survive on my own. I was actually the first time I had to be independent. So I had to cook my own food, do my own washing, clean my own room, at the same time do well in school. And that was where all the memories, of me helping my mother cook came back. And so I started cooking by myself, started making my own food. If back then YouTube wasn't really that big, so I didn't have much instructions of these food recipes going on. But it's the reason why I like doing it in our videos, because it'll probably help you guys out with cooking as well. I know I don't go into too much detail about it, but maybe along the lines down further on, in the future with our videos, I can actually get into more detailed, make specific videos for specific dishes. But for our Sunday cooking episodes, I just do like a general thing of what's going on, what I'm trying to cook. So I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that it does help you, with cooking as well, because sure as hell didn't help myself back then, in writing it all down when my mother used to cook it. But yeah, really appreciate it. Just want to say thanks, guys. Really appreciate the questions and the comments, guys. All right, guys. So now we're done with the questions. Just gonna quickly, give you a brief breakdown of what I'm doing here in Australia. So, um, there is a conference going on at the moment, and the conference is all about testing medicines in the Pacific. So, as you guys know, I am a scientist by profession, and there's been a lot of concern by the WHO, and the different regional countries in the amount of medicines that are entering the Pacific that is that's not only unregulated but also substandard. So substandard meaning, you know, something is prescribed, something on the packaging. So, for example, sorry, let me just rephrase that. It's not what it says it is. So that's what it means by substandard. So it'll say something, for example, Panadol, 500 milligrams, and yet what's inside is not Panadol, or it's not 500 milligrams, or which is below the standard. So that's something we've been involved in this whole week, and that's we've Australia's been a big help in the Pacific region, especially for Samoa. You guys know Australia actually bought the police patrol boat, and the various projects they have going on in Samoa. So this is another part of that assistance that Australia is providing to Samoa, and something that's really, really, really important, because you want to be able to have confidence. Excuse me. You want to be able to have confidence in the medicine that you're taking, not only for you, your parents, your wife, but especially your kids, who are probably the most vulnerable to these types of medicines that are not actually what they prescribe to be. So that's what I've been involved in this week, and they've been helping us test the contents of those medicines to ensure that it's actually what it says it should be, and that they are following standards, international standards, with regards to manufacturing medicine. So that's something I'm actually involved in, and that's why I'm here in Canberra, um, getting that done. But looking forward to head back home. And although it's like coming back to a second home here, because I've actually lived here for quite a long time. I do miss home as well. But I enjoyed because I actually met up with my Fijian friend, and this Fijian friend of mine, we go back way back, um, back in our uni days, and we struggled a bit back then, living our broke lives and trying to get through uni at the same time. So he took me out. We went shopping. As you know, I'm living in the accommodation. The accommodation is actually quite they're nice apartments. They're self-contained units. If that's the one where you've got your own bathroom, your own kitchen area. So yeah, so we went shopping, and my Fijian friend bought me most of my groceries and stuff, and shouted me to dinner. So really appreciate good friends, and we've been through a lot when we were in uni, so we were always together like this, and yeah, it was really great to see him again. But yeah, I think we probably finished. We've got one more week here in Canberra, and then after that we'll head back home. So I think everything should normalize after one week, after next week. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. We'll try my best to do a cooking episode for you guys, our Sunday cooking, but maybe like um, the broke, or the Australian version, or the one away from home. So we'll see what we can do tomorrow um, with our cooking episode. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. Be sure to get, with our next podcast next month, be sure to ask, any question you guys want relating to the farms and videos that I make, or maybe in professional with regards to work and stuff. I'm always happy. And again, I really encourage you guys to ask questions. And there's no such thing as ignorant or stupid questions. I love giving back, guys, and this is probably another way I can give back. It's just, sharing it with you guys. So remember, guys, I am actually learning. And as I said before, some of you guys are also learning in the same way that I am learning. So it's just a learning experience for all of us, But I think I'm gonna sign off. Probably gonna take a nap, and then we'll probably head to the grocery store and see what's there. If we can find out something, simple on a budget, but edible for Sunday till night tomorrow. So I hope you guys have enjoyed today's podcast. I love doing it for you guys. Even though I'm not at home, I'm still trying to bang out these episodes, but I really, really enjoy the feedback from you guys. But I'm going to sign off now, guys. Thank you for watching today's podcast. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the love for the channel, guys. I really appreciate family. Really appreciates it. And we'll definitely catch you on our cooking episode if I do one. But until then, guys, just want to say thank you for the support that you guys give us. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share our channel if this is the first time you've come across it. But until our next episode, guys, be safe. God bless. Take care.